Hello, everybody. It is me, Pacific. Oh boy, have I got one for you. Any of you been following the news? Duck Dynasty, the man who made duck calls and made a fortune from them. He made some statements, and people are really mad. I read the statements. Stuff like, let's look at four groups of people that didn't have Jesus. And three actually that I can think of. He mentioned the Nazis and how many people they killed. The Shintos in Japan, how many people they killed. The communists and how many people they killed. They call that racism, by the way. And it isn't racist. He's stating a fact. But he said that he talked about America today and how, the gays and bestiality and all this. He wasn't like Reverend Fred Phelps, the guy out of, what is it, Kansas or Oklahoma? I don't even know where. Westboro Baptist Church, maybe that's Kansas. That guy is a true hater. But this guy makes observations on the culture just like I did. And now A&E pulled him. People want to sue him. People are angry about his anti-gay, or what they call gay bashing remarks. Excuse me. Do you know what bothers me? Tonight, I'm going to be very blunt. How come the gay community always gets so butthurt when somebody calls their lifestyle sinful? Does the gay community ride on my school bus with children that tell me F off, F you, threaten me, and the parents don't care? Where's the gay community when I go home every night and people cut 2 inches in front of me at a high rate of speed, with or without a turn signal, endangering my life? Literally, that could endanger my life. Where's the anti-safety police? And I tell you what, I've got a cold, so bear with me. Why is it that the homosexual community in America can scream and yell, throw a temper tantrum, get their panties in a wad, and get butthurt because somebody doesn't agree with their lifestyle? Teenagers today can get on the bus, black girls can call each other nigger, and that's okay, but if a white man says it, they're ready to fight. Same with a black man. I say, if the word is bad, nobody should be saying it. I had Mexican kids get on and call each other that, and I said, whoa, you guys need to stop. Last year, a black teen girl called her black friend that. I said, excuse me, why are we using the N-word? Well, I'm black, I can do that. I said, no, you can't. And I said, if you think it's wrong for the white people to say it, then it's wrong for everybody to say it, girl. But let's go back to the gays. They're all offended, and A&E's going to pull the guy. Why? Because A&E's afraid of losing views and money. Everything boils down to money now. Let's not offend the group that makes the most racket and threatens to boycott everything. Pacific is tired of the gay community. It's funny, I read some of the comments that this Duck Dynasty man left. He's spot on. I don't see hate. He admitted that he was in the 60s drug and sex and rock and roll culture. Until he came to Jesus, he didn't get it. I've admitted to you I've been down some dark, sinful roads, dabbled in the bi-curious thing, and mainly because somebody introduced me to it. Somebody who was a homosexual. It's funny, but we're not allowed to call that a sinful lifestyle. Even those of us that actually dabbled in it. You know what? If you don't believe me that America's going down the toilet bowl, just look at the gays and how angry they get and how much power they have now. The gays can bash conservatives. The gays can bash Christians. The gays got legislation in Canada to protect them, even in a private church. A preacher cannot stand up and call homosexuality a sin. It's called a hate crime. I'm going to tell you something, and I'm going to say something very bold. America is a very stupid place to be right now. Let me say this again. Our government doesn't do anything about traffic, doesn't do anything about every idiot out there, gay or straight, conservative or Democrat, that gets in a car and endangers my life constantly all day long. No turn signals, no courtesy, cutting in front of me, almost broadsiding me. They don't do anything about that. But somebody stood up and he said, you know what? Look at how decadent our society is. Homosexuality, bestiality, and the gays have a fit. It is disgusting, folks. You know, everybody wants to say we're living in the days of Sodom and Gomorrah. I don't say that. We're living in evil times. As the man of the house here said, Dynasty says something and the heathen are raging, as it says in Psalm 2. And I thought, good point. Let me tell you what happened to me at work today. There's a gal. She's married to a guy with a beard. She's got a tattoo across her chest. Hispanic woman. She's not very nice, not very friendly. I've already had a run-in with her, and then I had one today. I didn't cause either of them. She's very rude. I was talking to another employee one day, and we were at the corner of the break room, and I was talking, and she walks right up, says, "Excuse me," blah, 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 blah. I said, "Hey, I was talking to her. Could you hold on a second, please?" Well, I said, "Excuse me." I said, "No, that was rude." And I walked away. She came up later and said, "I'm sorry if you didn't hear my excuse me." And I thought, oh, this woman doesn't get it. It's like the idiot that cuts 2 inches in front of my bus. He figures because he uses the turn signal, it's okay. You don't cut 2 inches in front of a moving bus at 30, 40, 50 miles an hour. Whether you use a turn signal or not, it's just dumb. It would be rude for Pacific to walk right into the boss's office when the boss is talking to somebody and say, "Excuse me, boss," and just, you know what? Rude. I accepted her apology because I thought, you know what? She's a woman. No offense. I'm going to say something everybody's going to call chauvinist. They operate on their emotions. If I were to say, "No, actually, you said excuse me," and you just overflowed like a toilet bowl, you didn't even give me a chance to say, "Could I finish my sentence with this woman first, and then you can cut in?" And then when she told me why she butted in, it was not important. It was just showing disrespect to who I was. Today I was sitting at a table that she happened to be sitting at. I don't like the woman. As far as I can tell, I've seen nothing in her that exhibits any kind of Christian faith or Christianity. She does sit over at the table where the Jehovah's Witnesses primarily hang out, so I thought she was one of them. And I made a comment one day to the others. I said, "Isn't she one of you guys?" "No, she's not a Jehovah's Witness." Okay. Her husband one day came up to me. We had an in-service last year. He had his backpack sitting on the chair, but he got up and left. There was one group for the first 4 hours. Their thing was ending. All the people got out of their chairs and left. Our group was coming in at noon. We were there a few minutes early. I sat on the edge of the chair, not on a step, but just on the edge. He comes up, puts his hand on my back, and shoves me. I said, "Excuse me usually works real good." "Well, that's my chair." I said, "Again, excuse me works really good. You were not here. Nobody was in any of these back chairs." This is her husband. I'm giving you some background because when I tell you what happened today, this was interesting. There's another woman there, and they were commenting on something that was on the TV in the break room, and some woman had fuchsia-colored hair, and I said, "Man, I don't like it when women do that." And she said, "Well, I kind of like her. Of course, I don't know if she's a liberal or not." I said, "Are you conservative?" She goes, "Oh, yeah." And I said, "You know, I like a woman that's natural looking." And then somebody mentioned tattoos, that they don't like them. And I said, you know, if God wanted a woman to have tattoos, he would have put them on there. Now, for my viewers that have a tattoo, please don't misread me. I'm not saying you're all going to hell. I don't believe that. And I'm not saying you're monsters and evil people. It is my personal opinion, based on Deuteronomy or Leviticus or wherever it was, that God basically told people to do not copy the heathen practices, marking the body up and doing all these things and getting tattoos. Some wag made a comment on my online site once that, well, if God wanted us to have deodorant, he would have invented it, and on and on and on. And clothes. Well, he did invent clothes. He sewed fig leaves together or something in the garden. Some things are common sense. Mutilating, tearing up your body, putting body art that's permanent. I don't believe God wants us to do that. Its origins are pagan. So anyways, I made the comment. I said, if God wanted a woman, the black woman sitting next to me, the Jehovah's Witness, who's always contrary to anything I say, nice or not. And I finally made a decision today. Pacific, you know what? You're trying to get along with impossible people. You're trying to get along with people that live in darkness, that are foolish in their thinking, alienated from God, and you're not going to do it. So we're all talking. The black woman has dyed her hair brown, and I said, I just personally think women need to leave their natural color. When they actually change the color, I'm not talking about when they start to get gray and they dye it the color that it was pre-gray, but when they change the color to this unnatural fuchsia color and pink and green, and black women dyeing their hair brown, Asian women dyeing their hair blonde, I personally don't like it. It is my express opinion that I don't think that that's God's intent for them either. Why? He gave them the hair color they had, or have. So I said, yeah, my sister went to go get tattoos, and my mother got real upset, and my sister called me, and I said, Gina, you're a Christian. Christians shouldn't be getting tattoos. Well, then Miss Friendly pipes up, the one who butts in. I wasn't talking to her. She goes, you're not supposed to judge the person, and you need to look at the heart and the inner things. And I said, ma'am, actually, I have a right to judge. And she goes, no, you don't. I said, show me where it says what you just said. Show me where it says that I cannot judge and say, I believe it's wrong for a Christian person to get tattoos. She steamrolled over me, started talking authoritative. You don't have that right. You do not have that right. You're supposed to live the Christian life. And I'm like, so this woman's already thinking that she's a theologian. I said, could you show me the verse in the Bible that supports all of what you just said? She refused. Then the Jehovah's Witnesses start jumping on me. I thought, wait a minute. I thought Jehovah's Witnesses were against everything cultural. They don't believe in even saluting our flag. They don't believe in celebrating the 4th of July. They don't believe in the Thanksgiving or Christmas and all that. And I don't believe in Christmas either. So I'm with them on that one. But Jehovah's Witnesses take it far. They're even against birthday celebrations. So they start pouncing on me. Well, yeah, it says, don't judge by the eye. I said, where does it say that? I said, it says in the Bible, God looks at the heart, but we're not talking about that right now. And I said, by the way, and I turned back to the Miss Know-It-All, rudeness. I said, actually, my Bible tells me to test the spirits. Paul says, judge ye among yourselves. I said, there is all kinds of injunctions to judge. And I said, that verse you guys are all using about judge not lest ye be judged, and I quoted it right back to him. I said, that's talking about somebody who has a beam in his eye who hasn't removed the beam. I said, that's talking about people who don't even know Jesus Christ, the Pharisees who are judging righteous people. I'm going to tell you something, viewers. Women, more than men, always throw that out. You cannot judge. You just judged me, lady. You just judged me. And then you're judging my Christianity on that. So I opened up 1 Corinthians chapter 6 and I started reading. It says, dare one have a matter against a brother and you take it before unbelievers in lawsuits? Can't you judge among yourselves? Know ye not that we shall judge the angels and we shall judge the world? Paul said that. We, us, the saints. Oh, sounds like we'll be judging. It says, let a man examine himself. What did Paul say? I have already passed judgment on this guy when he was talking about the expel the immoral brother. Do you know what? The Bible is full of injunctions for us to test, to be discerning, test the spirits, see whether they be of God. By their fruits you shall know them. That implies to me judgment, people, and the world that doesn't believe in God, Jesus Christ, doesn't put their faith in him. They just believe in God, so they call themselves Christians. It's funny, they all know that verse, thou shalt not judge, lest you be judged. Do you know what that means? Jesus was not talking to Christians. He was talking to the Pharisees, saying, the measure that you guys are using, that very measure is going to be used against you. What were the Pharisees doing, viewers? Look it up. They were nitpicking at every little thing, and God said, you know what? You're not even following my commandments, but you're laying all these burdens on men that you yourselves won't even lift a finger to carry. You have a beam in your eye because you don't know God. You're not saved, and you're picking at the speck in your brother's eye, your fellow Jew. And God says, you're going to get nailed by your own standard when I come down and deal with you. Is it wrong for a Christian to say, in the table that I was at, and say, I don't believe that a Christian should get tattoos? Was that judging? When I think of judging, I think of a judge slamming the gavel down and rendering a verdict. I think of a judgment. Okay, Pacific, you've been found guilty of this, your fine is this, judgment on this day, bing, bing, you're done. The world is ironic. They can hate us, they judge us all the time, and don't ever believe the lie when women say, you shouldn't judge. That same woman judges probably more than you do, my friend, but they're too blind and too stupid to see it. I got mad, and I started to debate. She wouldn't listen to a word I said, and I said, hold it all, you ladies. I said, don't railroad me. Don't gang up and attack, one at a time. That's another woman's tactic, henhouse tactic. And are all beaking each other. You know what? I'm not making this up. Women are not good debaters. Women don't go back to the source. I said, show me your basis where you can tell me I don't have the right to judge. Show it to me. You don't have the right to judge. That's not even right for you to judge other people. Show me where it says that, ma'am, that I can't judge that a tattoo is wrong. And then I thought, Pacific, wake up. She overheard your conversation. She's got this big tattoo across her chest. She is feeling convicted. And she don't like you at all. Remember Herod? John the Baptist said it is not right for you to have your brother's wife. Herod felt convicted. But his wife had a fit. Because Herod probably went back and said something to her. And what did she do to John the Baptist? Trust me, she was scheming. When Herod's daughter danced before Herod, Herod was probably somewhat drunk, and his own daughter was dancing lascivious and probably quite lustful, and he's feeling horny. Up to half the kingdom, I'll give it to you. She runs back to Mom. Mom. And Mom says, they had John the Baptist on a silver platter. Am I comparing myself to John the Baptist? No. But there's similarities. When you convict somebody by telling the truth, it is amazing how spiritual they'll try to get against you. Tell you you're not quite Christian, you're not. Do not listen to today's women when it comes to spiritual matters in this country. They have disqualified themselves in the shiploads. There are very few godly women who actually read and study theology. I'm going to say it again. I have grown up hearing that women were more spiritually mature than men. That is not true anymore. It is, I'm going to say it again, it is the men who dig deep into Scripture and find out the original Hebrew and Greek intent, and it is men who wrote the commentaries, it is men who translated the Bible, the Wycliffe, all that stuff. It was men. There were godly women in history. It's in the book of Acts. You can find them. There were godly women like John Wesley's mother. There are others. Timothy learned the scriptures from, was it his grandmother? But today, we have American materialistic women that base everything on emotionalism. They've been affected by the media. They've been affected by feminism. They've been affected by the homosexual agenda. They've been affected by entitlement. And these same women are going to turn around and tell me that they're some self-professed theologian. And I kept saying politely over and over, but firmly, I said, show me where the Bible says that. And then I turned to the one that was a Jehovah's Witness, show me. None of them would do it. So, because I'm in the workplace, I wanted to turn around and say, you know, you butted into a conversation that you are not in. You attacked me. Don't do that again, number one. Number two, don't talk to me with authority. You are a woman and you have no authority over me. You're somebody else's wife. You are not the head of me. Don't ever talk to me like that again, woman. I wanted to say that, but if I were to, I'd be called in the office for being sexist. I'm going to tell you something. It angered me. No woman has the right to talk to me like that, especially when a woman's telling me about the Christian life. I wanted to say, woman, do you know what it says about a woman and her place? You have no business talking in authority or having authority over me, number one. Number two, you're not going to the book itself and showing me. Number three, you don't know anything about Jesus or theology, but I did do this. She got up and left when I tried to talk, and she just walked away, and I thought, yep, typical female, not going to deal. She comes and sits back down a few minutes later, and I thought, you know what, it's time for me to get in my bus and go. It's almost afternoon route time. I looked up the scripture, and I fell on 1 Corinthians 6, all the stuff about judging. We will judge the angels, judge the world, judge you among yourselves. Why take this before the unbelieving courts and make an embarrassment out of Christians? Got up, I leaned over the table, and I said, ma'am, I would challenge you to read 1 Corinthians 6, and when you do, come back and tell me what that says. And I turned on my heel, and I walked right out the door. And part of me, forgive me, viewers, you're going to say, well, that isn't very Christ-like. I thought, bite me. This is the unbelieving world, folks. They think they're experts on God. They sit there and say, you're not supposed to judge. Really? You just judge me. You're telling me I can't judge. You're judging me for judging. You're stupid. You're a hypocrite. Don't ever believe the lie that nobody judges. People do it all the time. There's something called right judgment and something called wrong judgment. So let me tell you something, viewers. Am I arguing with you? Am I trying to justify myself? No. When I make a judgment, and I say I don't believe a Christian man or woman should get a tattoo, I base that on Deuteronomy. I base that on its origins in paganism. Just like I said, I don't celebrate Christmas because its origins are pagan. There's nothing Christ about it. Christians tried to put Jesus all over it because they can't get away from the tree and the presents and all the trappings and all the silly stuff that goes with it. Instead of just admitting they're addicted to the euphoria and the idolatry of it all, they got to Christianize it and Jesusify it. The same thing happened with Christian rock music. People don't want the old hymns. They love their MTV. They love the Who. They love the Grateful Dead. And now we got to bring the Grateful Dead into church and sanctify it. This is what's happening in our culture. Pop culture is determining everything. If you don't believe me about the judging, the gays are saying the same thing. They're screaming and yelling that Dynasty judged homosexuality to be a sin. He didn't actually do it. He's just repeating what the Bible says. Do you know what angers me? Those people are judging conservatives, judging Christians. The media is very hypocritical today, folks. They're trying to muzzle anybody who stands up on something called truth. And I'm going to tell you, after New Year, I'm not going to sit at that table. And if that girl or her husband or anybody come up to me, because her husband works there, and if he says something to me, I'll say, you know what? The conversation wasn't with you. Well, that's my wife. I didn't say anything rude or mean to her. She butted into my conversation and she tried to get authoritative with me. You keep your wife under your headship. You tell her not to try to rule over me because I'm not going to put up with that and I don't care whose husband you are. Back off, buddy. And don't think it's going to come to that. But if it did, I'm ready. This week, I've realized something. You cannot talk to the women in the workplace. I had a woman walk up to me, and I will confess something very honest. She was always very friendly to me. She is drop dead gorgeous, but she is married. And she'd always come up and smile. Hi. And I told her one day, I said, man, you look really nice. And I said it a few times on different days, and she said, you know, Pacific, I'm married. I said, yes, I know that. And I said, I'm not trying to ask you for a date. But then I did some soul searching and thought, you know what? You need to make it a rule in your life. You need to practice this. You're not going to talk with the married women unless that person is over you as a boss or something. So she went to the other terminal to drive bus. She was there the other day. I saw her and I didn't know it was her. I was on a mission. I thought it was somebody else. And I told you, there's a few women there that are very stuck up, and I thought it was somebody who was. And it's like, I saw her, but I didn't acknowledge, and I, moved on my way out the door and out to my bus. She comes up to me yesterday, puts her hand on me, and starts patting my back. She goes, are you mad at me? I said, no. Because I said hi to you, and you didn't say hi. I said, I guess I didn't hear you say hi. Viewers, I'm going to say something. Pacific has his own insecurities and problems, but I'm tired of good-looking women prancing around the workplace making trouble for us men. It's hard not to notice them, married or single, especially when they're enhancing things. And what bothers me is I thought, if I'm really going to be true to myself, I need to start doing some hard choices and saying, you know what? It's time for me to start pulling away from the women. Except the single ones that are kind. But even then, it's dangerous. Ironically, the Jehovah's Witnesses aren't Christians. We know that. But of course, they would take the side of the dark woman. And I thought, yep, there you go. We're going to stand out and be weird from the culture as a cult religion. But then, when here's a Christian man saying, well, the Bible, and Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe in getting tattoos, by the way, as far as I know. You think they would have said, well, Pacific is right. Nope. Darkness always lines up with darkness, people. Remember, Pilate and Herod became friends over the crucifixion. Do we have the right to judge? Does Duck Dynasty have the right to make those comments? Were they anti-gay? Were they gay bashing? No. Where does America get the right or the self-appointed authority to say anti-abortion, anti-gay? How about anti-conservative and anti-safety and anti-life? How about when I'm driving home at night? Why do I mention traffic? Gays get butthurt because somebody says this stuff is sinful, and they demand his removal from A&E, his programs. I'm amazed at how the minority is becoming the majority and shouting down anybody who speaks truth. I'm amazed how they get their underwear in a bunch, and they're having great success at muzzling and shutting us down and calling it hate crimes. Let me tell you, I went to a marriage rally down at the Capitol. I brought my son many years ago, downtown Denver at the Capitol. Focus on the families. Some keynote speakers were there. The gays were there in the shiploads. They were yelling, F you, F your daughter, F your son, you're probably molesting your son or your daughter, you're all pedophiles, screaming and yelling, obscenities and cursings. I didn't know where we were supposed to stand. There's so many people around, we ended up in the section where all the gays were standing. My son's looking at me, I said, let's go. And I said, do you see how they're acting? Do you need any proof that their lifestyle is wrong? He said, Dad, they're horrible. I said, yeah, let's go. Do you know what bothers me? The gays weren't politically correct that day. They were yelling hate speech with a capital H. You ought to see the gay comments, the pro-gay people, and their hate for me on my YouTube. They are venomous. Venomous. And somebody says homosexuality is a sin, and they are screaming and yelling to highest heaven, but it's okay for them to turn around and say, F you, suck my D-I-C-K, and the nasty, atrocious stuff that they write. Homosexuals are hypocrites. So are the lesbians. They don't want you to judge them. The lady doesn't want me to judge her tattoo. I wasn't even talking to her or about her. She got butthurt. We're living in a society, folks, that if you just be yourself, not preach on street corners, be obnoxious, you just be yourself, and you say something of truth, you will polarize the room, and you will brand yourself, and you will be alienated. Don't lose heart. When Jesus saw the crowds get angry and riled, he laughed. I did the same thing. Leave that table of fools. Bunch of women that don't want to hear the truth. They just want to be heard, and they want to shout down and pull junior high school tactics. All three of them gang up. And I'm like, wow, this is maturity. Not. I applaud Duck Dynasty for standing up. Funny thing is, it's not a big stand. He's just saying what we used to say for decades. These things are sin. He also nailed adultery. Boy, we don't hear the adulterer crowds, hey, that's anti-adultery speech. Or fornicators, or gluttons, or drinkers, drunks. Where was their outrage? How come the drunk people didn't say, hey, that's anti-drinking? Why is it the gays have their own special status that we can't say anything that hurts their feelings, but boy, they can do whatever they want? Shh, grow up, homosexuals. Grow up. If you want to be rebellious and live in your dirty little sin and justify it, don't make the rest of us accept you and pat you on the back, because we don't have to. We have a mandate from God. And I'm sorry, but Barack Obama's not God, and neither is anybody else, or the political correct police, or the laws of the land. America is truly going down the toilet bowl. We're favoring gay people. We're making all this speech to protect them, and all this stuff to protect poor little doggies and poor little cats and guppies and fish and squirrels and whales, and we're aborting our babies and treating our fellow man with complete contempt on the roads, worshiping materialism, and America's just a great, wonderful, cozy place, ain't it? The only people that don't see this are those that are blinded by the devil. And some of them happen to be Christians. The only people that don't get this are those that are really not in tune with reality. Duck Dynasty said the right thing. I read his comments. I find nothing racist. I find nothing gay bashing. I find him stating a fact. The gays have been effective in using a sledgehammer, saying gay bashing, gay bashing, gay bashing. And that's more of a sin than their lifestyle. Isn't that interesting how things have got turned around? Gay bashing is horrible and it's punishable in America, but the actual sin of being gay and doing that stuff that's okay. Do you see how things have been twisted? They're saying you can't judge them. The woman's saying I can't judge and say that having a tattoo is not for the Christian person. Where does it say that in the Bible that I can't judge it? Paul says, do not be deceived, for the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of God. Oh, he just made a judgment. And he named all the people in that group. Homosexuals, male prostitutes, adulterers, fornicators, drunkards, gluttons, blah, 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 swindlers, cheaters. Funny, none of the rest of that category grouping got offended. It's just the homosexual community whining and screaming and yelling and fussing and stamping their feet and continuing to contribute to the moral decline of this country. He said that the homosexuals were as bad as terrorists and was pedophiles, and I thought he's right. He's right. It's moral terrorism to say we don't need a husband and wife. We can be two mommies and two daddies. It is moral terrorism. Sheesh. I'm amazed at where we're headed, folks. Y'all better wake up, because I hope the guy of Duck Dynasty says, go ahead, pull my program. I don't care. Okay, people, let me tell you something. My God is real. And he's going to take care of me whether you will or not. And you can censor everything all you want, but you're still not going to shut me up, and you're still not going to change my beliefs that this stuff is wrong. For those of you that get attacked for making a statement, don't shrink back. There is nothing wrong with righteous judgment. There's nothing wrong with calling a spade a spade. You're dealing with a bunch of emotionally based women. You're not going to win the argument. You get up from the table and say, you know what, I don't have to listen to this. I don't agree with you. I'm out of here. You don't need to convince the women. You don't need to debate the women. Women like that are rebellious, not against you, but against a holy God. They hide behind that you're not supposed to judge them. Well, gee, are you going to wait till you die when God tells you that what Pacific said is true? Or would you rather do it now? God uses people. He uses people to point out things. But even the church is afraid to do that anymore. They don't want to discipline anymore. Some churches are legalistic and go overboard with that too. But homosexuality is a sin. Getting tattoos for the Christian, I don't believe it honors God. Are you going to go to hell for it? No. Does God love you any less for it? No. But are you doing a heathen practice to your body? Absolutely. Why don't we leave this temple of the Holy Spirit alone, take care of it the way we're supposed to, and stop following everybody else? Why don't you stand up and be wholesome looking? What's wrong with that? Guys getting, what do they call those stupid things in their ears now? Gauges. I'm like, oh my gosh, big hole in the ear and this rim inside there. And I'm like, really? We are getting freakier and freakier. And Duck Dynasty said the same thing I've been saying. Our culture just continues to get more and more decadent and freakish and weird. And we're living in troubled times, folks. And I have to constantly say, you're in a break room with a bunch of unbelievers. But what angered me is the woman's arrogance, her thinking that she speaks in the place of God and that she has the mind of God to tell me I have no right to judge the outside of what a person does. And I said, oh, actually, honey, we all do it, but yes, I can say I don't think it's right for a woman to do that. And then she wanted to say the heart, and if I wasn't in the workplace, I would have said, well, based on what I've seen from you, your heart's a mess, lady. It's not nice. You're very rude. You don't say hi to anybody except your little groupies. You're not Christian. You're very rude. So your heart fails you, and then you want to condemn me because I said that getting a tattoo is not a Christian thing to do? It isn't. Neither is getting drunk. Neither is committing homosexual acts. Neither is sex before marriage. Neither is fornication. Neither is looking at porn. They're not Christian acts. Have we done those things? Yes. I'll bet you $1,000,000 that if that woman's husband cheated on her, she'd judge that. Oh, but that's different. No, it isn't. Same thing. Where does it say in the Bible we're not supposed to judge right from wrong? I'm sorry, but when it comes to women like that, none of us men need to listen to that. Don't even entertain them. Walk away from them and say, you know what? You're not the Bible. You're not a theologian. You don't have a THD. And neither does Pacific. But I have studied that word, and I have put my face in it, and most women don't put their face in it or commentaries, and they don't know what they're talking about. They're basing it on their pop culture feel-goodism, going to Catholic Mass, I believe in God, and there's a whole movement today that God doesn't judge, that we're not supposed to judge, that God just loves everybody. There's a whole movement out there that people aren't supposed to judge, that only God can judge too. That's the other side of that. And I said, oh, so in other words, we're not supposed to hold anybody accountable. We're just, somebody cuts me off in traffic, or the next door neighbors want to move in and have gay parties at their house, that we're just supposed to go, well, yeah, we're not going to judge that. We're going to let God judge that. Hold it. How far do we go with this? I can't keep a homosexual couple, if I owned a house, from buying the house next door. But if they want to start making noise in their backyard and yelling and screaming gay stuff and all that, where it's in my yard and I've got children, I can say, you know what? I don't want to hear that. Could you keep it down over there? We live in different times. We're being forced to accept Obamacare. Whether we like it or not, we're being forced to accept the fact that gays are a legitimate group now, and anything said against them is racism or anti. That is a lie. There's a difference between Fred Phelps and his hatred and a Christian standing up and saying, well, the Bible does say it's a sin. I'm not going to use the cheap old adage, love the sinner and hate the sin. I'm getting tired of the homosexual community stomping their feet like a baby who needs its diaper changed and needs its bottle. Our society is catering to them way too much. But as I said to a coworker today who is a Christian man who I do respect, he said, Pacific, we have been going down the toilet bowl, and right now it's already starting to flush down. And he said, why are you acting surprised when this stuff happens? You know why it's happening. And I said to him, well, if I think about it from a God point of view, he said, Pacific, that's the only way to think of any of this stuff is from a God point of view. It's all spiritual. We're talking about the way business is going, the way everything is just getting more depressing. Because Satan is the prince of the power of the air. And he's gathering up his forces. He knows his time is short. He knows that battle's coming, and he's gathering as many people as he can in rebellion with him to come against the holy God. He drew a third of the angels with him when he left heaven, or took on God and said, I shall be like the Most High. A third of the angels followed him in his madness. And God will cast them all down to earth in the tribulation. And when that happens, the devil, people who think that they're cozy with Satan, they're going to find out real quick. The devil has no need for people. He hates them. He hates them. He just uses them to foster the rebellion. But when he's done with them, he'll dash them to the ground. Wait till Satan's released during the tribulation, and God says, you are cast out of heaven. You have no more entry into my kingdom. He is going to be filled with wrath. It says, woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth. He knows his time is short, and he goes to make war with the saints. The devil doesn't like the Christian. And the devil's own unbelieving people are simply acting out what he is behind. This is Pacific signing off. Bye-bye.